could have just been the middle-class kid who made good, but Mike Bloomberg became the guy who did good. After building a business that created thousands of jobs, he took charge of a city still reeling from 9/11. A three-term mayor who helped bring it back from the ashes, bringing jobs and thousands of affordable housing units with it. And now he's taking on him. To rebuild a country and restore faith in the dream that defines us, where the wealthy will pay more in taxes and the middle class get their fair share. Everyone without health insurance can get it, and everyone who likes theirs keep it. Jobs creator, leader, problem solver, Mike Bloomberg for president.
He hasn't announced quite yet, but that ad already running in Tallahassee, all the big states on Super Tuesday. Mike Bloomberg is going to get in imminently. Let's talk about that on our roundtable with Christie, former DNC chair and Fox News contributor Donna Brazile. Heidi Heitkamp served as Democratic Senator from North Dakota. Welcome to you. And Republican strategist Sarah Fagan, who served as White House Political Affairs Director under George W. Bush. Okay, Donna, you've run presidential campaigns for Democrats. Does Mike Bloomberg have a chance?
I think it's going to be a very difficult uphill battle for several reasons, George. He is skipping the first 4 states and going straight into Super Tuesday. As you well know, starting next month, in order to get on the ballot, I'm still on the Rules Committee. I want to be a lawyer.
Thank God for that.
I want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
No one better to be in charge of the rules than you, Donna.
Hell yeah, baby. Just, you better not jump in. It's bad enough that we need a widescreen TV to see all of the candidates. I don't know why anybody else is getting in the race. But, George, this is a race for delegates. And the question is, how do you get delegates? How do you get on the ballot? Next month, he has to get on the ballot in Virginia. This is not writing a check, which we know he can write a lot of checks, right, Sarah? He can write a lot of checks. But can he actually go and find 5,000 people? Yes, he will be able to pay canvassers to go out and get it. But at the end of the day, George, he has to get on the ballot. Then he has to convince real Democrats to back him in order to get 1,885 delegates in order to secure the nomination. It's an uphill battle.
Well, I do think that this shows that many Democrats are concerned about this field. The very fact that at this stage of the game he's entertaining the idea of running tells something about this field, as wide and big as it is, that the fear among elite Democrats and donors that Donald Trump is going to be reelected is so great that, you know, now 2 people are getting in the race.
I think you had an important word right there, elite Democrats and voters, because most voters, Democratic voters right now, are satisfied with their field. But Heidi, I think one of the things that's driving this is that he looked at the rise of Elizabeth Warren and said he's worried she would lose to Donald Trump, that most Democratic voters right now are banking on the fact that electability is the most important thing. He believes he can bring that. And then second, this is a brand new experiment. He's going to create a national primary with all this money by playing in all those states at the same time.
I think one of the things that he's banking on is that if he gets in now, he could lead a brokered convention. And I don't think we should discount the possibility that we may not know our nominee for a long time, because nobody seems to be breaking out. But it's really interesting that he thinks that he's going to get the hearts and minds in an anti-elite, anti-billionaire Democratic primary. I mean, look at the power of Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax. I don't agree with that, but it's a powerful message for her. That the fact that none of these people are taking contributions from very, very wealthy PACs and wealthy corporate business interests, but yet he thinks there's space for a Democratic nomination in that space. And that's, I think, very problematic.
He did make a point in that of saying taxes on the wealthy are going to go up.
Yeah, great. Listen, 2 things. He's a man without an island, okay? He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. And you don't win a Democratic primary or a Republican primary by not being of either party. So he has no path philosophically to get there. I mean, I can't wait for him to get out from behind the commercials and answer questions about his attitude towards the Me Too movement, because it's not going to be very popular in any aspect of the Democratic electorate. Secondly, for him, is he can't, for the life of me, I can't figure out how he turns this into a brokered convention. If I had a dime for every time somebody was going to be the beneficiary of a brokered convention, I wouldn't have to work. It doesn't happen anymore. This is not Abe Lincoln.
Except it does go back to the delegates and the rules. I mean, anyone who gets more than 15% of the vote in a congressional district is likely to earn a delegate. What he's saying is that nobody comes out of those first 4 states with overwhelming momentum.
And part of the issue too is, you know, Democrats have created and I agree with the governor, it's a very narrow path. He says no path, I say very narrow path. But they created this because of this mega Super Tuesday that they have, where, you know, nearly half of their delegates are going to be decided. California, Texas, Massachusetts, Virginia, North Carolina, very large states on the same day. And so in a scenario where, he has a bank shot, in a scenario where 3 different candidates or 4 different candidates win these early states before Super Tuesday, and there's chaos in the party, and he looks like the person who can defeat
the real bank
Donald
shot
Trump.
is that he bets that Joe Biden doesn't perform and Mayor Pete doesn't do quite well enough, so he owns the moderate lane against either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders.
But first of all, I want to respond to Sarah. Sarah, we have to respect what the states decide in terms of their dates. So you will notice that the Republicans and the Democrats will hold their primaries or caucuses on the same day. That's number one. But number two, it is a race for delegates. And how do you accrue delegates when you know that you have to, the road to the White House will go through major American cities, cities that know about Mike Bloomberg policy on stop and frisk. And although he gave
an apology
somewhat of an
Sunday.
Apology, I mean, apology? Come on. I mean, we got to hear more.
Seriously, come on.
I was reporting that he gave an
I
apology.
understand.
That is exactly what
George,
he did.
I think he did, but nobody believes it.
Yeah.
Nobody believes it. Mike Bloomberg is proud of that record. He is, and now he's doing what people don't want in today's politics, which is being inauthentic.
Yeah, but if I can just, goodness forbid that I would defend Mike Bloomberg, right? But the point is, if you look at what got Trump where Trump is, was that message of, I'm a self-made man, I know how to get things done, I'm a businessman, elect me because I'll run this country like a business. He's got a great contrast with this president who is all phony, and he did the real thing. He built up this empire. There's a lot of attractiveness about his personal story that I think is getting lost in this discussion.
And Sarah Fagan, one of the other things that's happening here, one of the ways that the mayor is going to undercut criticisms from Democrats that he's hurting their chances is by having a separate $100 million ad buy just against Trump over the next several months. Is that something the president needs to be worried about?
I think that television ads, at this stage of the game probably aren't that significant.
But this is digital, too.
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, all activity, is net positive, accrues to the person spending typically if they're done smart, and Mike Bloomberg has very smart people working for him. I think that you have a scenario where you've got a Warren exciting the base and Bernie exciting the base, and ultimately, those voters will decide in the end, the final analysis, that beating Donald Trump is more important. They will elect a Biden. They will elect a Buttigieg. There's a very small chance they'll elect Mayor Bloomberg.
One thing, warning sign for Democrats this weekend is just one warning sign. I want to put it up on the screen and bring this to you. Heidi Heitkamp, this Marquette University poll out of Wisconsin that for the first time showing, this is a flip from the summer and from the early fall, showing President Trump in that key state of Wisconsin beating every single major Democrat.
Yeah, I think that Marquette is the real deal, and I think they better start paying attention. And it goes back to how broad is your message? How much are you reaching out? How much are you making it about the people who you want to serve? And one of the problems that we have is we're now in impeachment land, and there's very little discussion about what's going to change for people in the real world. And impeachment itself is not a discussion about what does this mean for me. It just seems more of Washington dysfunction, more of what the rancor that people absolutely hate.
But you heard what Senator Klobuchar just said there. That may be. But the Democrats have a duty, if they see this evidence of what they consider an impeachable offense, they have to go forward.
But the problem that they have is that they fail to make it about the people. They keep making it about Donald Trump. The people know, they've made the judgment that this person is probably not a very moral person, not a very competent person, but quit making it about Trump and start making it about the people.
George, the two major themes of the Democratic campaign so far are impeachment, and they're going to go into every one of those Wisconsin building trades households, which are going to be a lot of those swing voters, and they're going to say, and we're taking away your health care, too. Those are the two major messages.
Well, that's
Medicare
not,
for all. But those are the headlines. But George, those are the headlines that have come out of this. When you look at the big stories, name me the big Biden initiative, right? There's not a big Biden initiative, and that's part of his problem. Name me the big Buttigieg initiative. There isn't one. The only big initiative that's gotten a big headline in the Democratic primary so far is Medicare for all. Here's what Donald Trump's going to do. He's going to go into Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and into those building trade union halls and say, you like your health care? Well, they're going to take it away from you, and it's deadly for them.
Governor, with all due respect, if the second district, the Second Circuit comes out and invalidate Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, then Donald Trump is going to have to explain how he's going to provide health care to the millions of Americans who will lose their coverage and those with pre-existing conditions. No, what's coming out of the Democratic primary today is concerning to many Democrats because we don't have a unified party yet. We're still debating big issues. The race is still fluid, and that's why people like Deval Patrick and Michael Bloomberg believe that they can come in and save the day. This is going to be an interesting race, George, because in 2 months, the folks in Iowa, they're going to stand up on one cold, wintry night. We've been there, and they're going to decide, and that's going to get the ball rolling. The problem is, can Bloomberg keep some momentum going when the press attention is going to be on the win of Iowa, the win of New Hampshire, and whatever else comes afterwards?
Well, and, you raised the impeachment issue earlier, which, to me has been a very big gamble in this race by Democrats. Yeah, there's some mixed polling, but at a minimum, Trump hasn't lost any ground during this trial, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest he's gained a few points in approval. And we saw it on that Wisconsin poll that's somewhat reflective, where I agree with Senator. People have priced in what they have priced in about Donald Trump. None of this in their minds is new information. I don't think Democrats think he should be impeached. Republicans don't think he should be impeached. Independents appear to think he should not be impeached. Moving to the Senate is going to be no matter what, is going to be more favorable terrain toward the president.
Inside the Senate, but there's also the possibility of wild cards, new information coming out. We just saw it yesterday, again, Mayor Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani, coming back out and giving interviews.
Have you talked to President Trump in the last week or two? Have you met with him? Are you still his counsel?
I do not discuss my conversations with my client. You can assume that I talk to him early and often.
Yeah.
And have a very, very good relationship with him. And all of these comments, which are totally insulting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen things written like, he's going to throw me under the bus.
Right.
When they say that, I say, he isn't, but I have insurance.
Now, Christie, that was the second time he's made that insurance policy quip. He then later said he was just being sarcastic. But there is also even though a lot of attitudes are baked in, there is also the possibility the longer this goes on, new information does come out against the president. Of course, 2 of Rudy Giuliani's associates have been indicted.
Well, I mean, listen, there's always that possibility, George. But I think Sarah is right. This conduct that was laid out in the impeachment hearings is consistent with the brand that Donald Trump has been selling for 35 years, that he will leverage to get the deal he wants to get. He's the deal maker, and he's strong enough and tough enough and mean enough at times
and people don't
to
care
leverage
if he breaks the rules?
But George, the people have already priced that in. I mean, it wasn't like he acted differently during the presidential campaign. I was there, okay? He was doing the same stuff then, and people said, we want that. We're voting for that.
See, that's the problem, and that is impeachment is a constitutional process. I understand the politics of it. It's a constitutional process, and if the president can get away with violating not just norms, breaking the law, using American taxpayers' money authorized by Congress as a leverage for his own personal and political gain, then we're in new territory as a country, not just as political
It's not
parties.
just a constitutional process, it's a political process.
Of course.
And the framers made it a political process, not a legal process.
That's all true. And Sarah, let me bring this question to you. I think both you and Heidi were saying that he's in more favorable terrain once it gets to the Senate. I wonder about after the Senate, even after an acquittal. How does this play out over time? The brand of impeachment there, even with an acquittal, what does this mean to those very small group of swing voters who are on the fence in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania in a general election?
I think in the world we live in today, it's going to be such old news by the time the general election gets around, unless there's some bombshell testimony in the Senate or something new comes out, but I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to have Supreme Court cases that are going to be very contentious decided next year. You're going to have a Democratic nominee that, even if they're not for Medicare for all, they now own it. That's going to be a major focus of this debate. I think impeachment, yes, it's going to be in most advertising against the president, but everybody knows it and everybody is moved on.
Number one, I totally disagree with Sarah that we own Medicare for all. The major candidate, Biden, is not saying Medicare for all. So we're having a debate about health care. The debate we ought to be having is what happens if you repeal the Affordable Care Act. The president has steadfastly refused to present any plan that could possibly pass. Let's say you remove DACA protections, what seems likely in the court. So what happens when, in middle of an election, election, you're talking about what are you going to do with health care? What are you going to do with the DACA kids? What are you going to do with an economy now that he has literally torn apart with his trade policies? This president is going to be in a much weakened position on issues that don't involve his personality, don't involve his corruption, and those are going to be the issues that are going to drive this.
But most of the people on the Democratic stage don't support Obamacare. They support Medicare for all.
That's not true.
No, it's absolutely.
That's not true.
Listen.
Even Elizabeth walked it back.
Oh, well, Elizabeth walked it back after she saw the polling numbers. And guess what? Those videos of her doing that are going to be
the only
everywhere.
one who's for full bore Medicare for all right now is Bernie Sanders.
Listen, I would say to you that Elizabeth Warren put out a $20.5 trillion plan, and just because she saw the polling, George, she doesn't get a pass for saying, okay, I saw that polling, now I'm not for it.
Saying everybody's for it.
It's not just Medicare for all. It's free college education. It's a Green New Deal. It is trillions and trillions of dollars of a government spending with no plan to pay for it.
Yeah, well, welcome to the Republican Party.
Welcome to
some of your criticism is fair.
All right.
Your criticism is fair, but
on the
these are much bigger
Sarah, I'm
programs than anything we've talked about.
Make you and Chris have a happy Thanksgiving. I still believe as an incumbent president, it's very difficult to take an incumbent president out.
And that's going to have to be it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.